Welcome to the Select Star Podcast, your resource for innovative technology, developer topics, and more. Here's your host, Margot McCabe from the HarperDB team.
All right, welcome everyone to the Select Star Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Today we have a special guest tuning in from Israel named Hila Fish, who is a Senior DevOps Engineer at Wix.com. So thanks for joining us today. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And so I know we originally connected, I think, through dev.to or one of those platforms. And I read a little bit about what you do, and sounds really interesting. I don't think we've had a very DevOps focused guest on the show yet. So I'm excited today to talk a little bit about kind of, around DevOps culture and what a role looks like, and a bit about your journey. So before we jump into it, would love to hear a bit about kind of your background, who you are, what you're working on now.
Sure. So as you said, I'm a senior DevOps engineer currently working for Wix. I have 15 years of experience in the tech industry. I started with, I always dealt with infrastructure. So I started as a system engineer and then changed my way into DevOps. And lately I'm doing some more, community work, because I really appreciate our community and the effect it has. So I'm lecturing in conferences and talking in podcasts like yours. And also, it's really funny to see that, we had some meetups as part of the communities, and we talked with the company that hosted us. It's a company in Israel. And based on the stuff that we shared with them, they actually changed their processes and, recruiting processes and in day-to-day processes. So I think it's very amazing to see how, what is the effect that community has on everyone, and especially on even companies, because you don't think that little on me can affect like processes for a company, but it does happen. So just a small reminder for everyone to speak up, and if something is not quite right, tell what's on your mind, and stuff could really change if you have a partner on the other side. So
that's awesome. That's a good reminder. And it's always good to talk to. I think a lot of the people I talk to are learning to get more involved, as you said, in community in different ways, on podcasts and speaking and things. I think it's mutually beneficial, because not only are you sharing your knowledge with the world and with the community, but also the other way around. You're probably making some really awesome connections and meeting some other smart people like yourself. So I think it's always beneficial for people to get involved like that.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that it has a direct link to DevOps, because DevOps has, the value of collaboration is DevOps is based on that. So I think without collaboration, DevOps wouldn't be where it is right now, because, the whole purpose or the whole world of DevOps is the combination of development and operations. So developers, doing their own thing, and me as a operations or infrastructure, personnel coming together and really enable each other to make the company more, to help it succeed in whatever it tries to do, because we know that we have the end game is the same. We have the same goal is to make the company succeed. And, several years ago, it was like heads together, bump together. We want X, developer says we want X, operation says, no, you don't get it, you blah, blah, blah. And the DevOps culture is more about let's come together and really work together in order to achieve the end game, which we all know it is the same. Whether I'm on the infrastructure side of things or the application side of things, we have the same goal, which is to make the company succeed. And this is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's I think in any department or role, collaboration is important, but it seems like from what you're saying, especially with departments like DevOps, you have to work together. You can't be as much of an independent contributor as maybe you can in other roles. It's really a lot about making sure you're on the same page and working towards that end goal, probably combining a lot of upper level strategy with the actual kind of daily nitty gritty. So I think that's really interesting. And what I know you just talked a little bit about kind of like what you drew into DevOps, but just even taking a step back, like how did you originally get into tech? How did you know when you first started that DevOps was the path you wanted to follow, or did you transition later on? What did that journey look like?
Tech in general, I think I was the person with you remember the floppy disks when we were like
Yeah.
I don't know 12.
Of course.
So I was the one carrying around the floppy disks and installing games and stuff to my friends. So I always had a link to computers. Also because of my brother, he just injected me into it. And then this just naturally led me to deal with tech also on my duty. On the army in Israel, we serve, and we can serve in a like a military and do stuff against wars, but we can also do stuff with computers. So I'm not good with anything physical, so I'm good with mind. So I went to the technical route. I was help desk there, so just helping people install memory cards in their computers and install software and stuff like that. And then just progressed from there, and I started to be a system engineer, which means maintenance of the infrastructure that the application relies on. So back then it was servers, and data centers, physical ones. And then after I dealt with it for quite a while, then I think it was 2017 or 2018, then DevOps started, the movement or the culture started, I think 2015, but I heard about it only a little bit later. And then once I heard about it, they'll say, okay, cool. I think I wanna be a part of it, because the way that I like to portray it is that a system person says, if this works, great, don't touch that. But a DevOps person says, if that works, great, now let's make it work better. So that's exactly it. We always want to improve things, improve processes, improve how we do things, because we understand that we need to enable developers to do better and to have their lives easier. So that's how I went to DevOps. Then I really liked, actually DevOps started as a culture. It's not really a job description. It started as a culture, but as you know, culture can't really be portrayed or measured as much. So that's why the culture began to get a physical definition of a job description. So at first I just stepped into the culture. I really like the idea of the collaboration and doing things together and not one against the other. And then I started in that direction. I started working as a DevOps engineer, and just kept with it with the end goal of let's automate things and let's do things better and improve things, because we want to make the experience as smooth and best as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about when the DevOps term first started being used, because it seems like probably one of those things where there's always been a need for it, and there's always been folks in your similar position working in a DevOps type role, but maybe it just wasn't titled that. I think it took a little bit of time for the tech industry to really kind of coin that term and understand why there's a need and how to succeed in that area. So it's cool that you were kind of there along that whole journey. And when it first started being called that, that's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. And so are you working pretty closely with other teams, within your company now, or previously? Do you work pretty closely with like product and other developers and things like that? Are you all collaborating, or do you mainly just kind of collaborate within your own team?
So yeah, I think we have collaboration with everyone. Maybe product less, but it's still, they usually product come to me when they need to get some help with the graphs. So we use Grafana to visualize data. And then they come to me and say, hey, I want to visualize XYZ, please help me do it, because I'm not a technical person and I want to achieve something, but I don't know how to achieve that. And then
Okay.
I come and say, okay, cool, I'll help you do whatever you want because it's my job, right? So this is more of the aspects for me in product-wise, but for sure, yeah, developers, the collaboration is with developers, QA people, always, all the time, daily, because I have my tasks, but my clients are not the company's clients. My clients are internal, the QA and the developers. So I always try to put myself in their shoes and try to understand what can I give them in order to be independent in their role. And I'll give you an example. In my previous job, I had 7 or 8 times a day that the developer or a QA person come to me and say, hey, I need help with X. Or I have this pod in Kubernetes, which is red, and I don't know why it's happening and stuff like that. And then I gathered all the, the stuff that it's pretty much easy, that I didn't need to do much in order to help them. And then I created a document with tips and tricks from DevOps and what you can do in order to help yourself. So, and then I did a training for QA and the developers in order to really help them understand that, hey, you can do and troubleshoot things on your own. And A, it will be good for you because then you wouldn't be dependent on me. And B, it's good for you because then it will be helpful for your, how do you say that? You will feel good because you dealt with it on your own and you don't need someone else's help. I mean, it's good to, I don't say help is not good. Getting help and requesting for help is awesome, but you sometimes want to feel that you can do something on your own, right?
Right.
So I think that this document and then the training was very helpful for them. I got a lot of great feedback saying that, wow, thanks a lot. It was very helpful. And I also saw the results from 7 or 8 times a day that they approached me. It decreased to 1 or 2 times a day. So it was really helpful for me because I was able to enable them to do whatever they need to do, most of the things, of course. And for them to, I helped them get the sense of achievement because they were able to do stuff on their own and they didn't need to depend on me for that. So for me, this is my role. I mean, of course, I do automations in order to make the code get to production, and I do automations in order to create the infrastructure that the developers need. But not only that, since my clients are the developers and the QA people, I need to further think what I can do in order to enable them to do their job. If it's not only with tools that I will provide them, then trainings and documents and everything that I can in order for them to do their job, in the best way possible.
Right. No, that's great. It's like that saying of, give a man a fish, they eat for a day, or teach them to fish and they eat for the rest of their life. I might have butchered that, but something like that is the saying where, I think that's awesome because I'm sure everyone has been in that position where you feel like you're bothering someone if you're asking them the same question over and over. As you said, it's good to ask questions. It's much better to ask questions than to sit there stuck on something. But if it's something that you're coming across, an issue you come across a lot in your role, or something that can help kind of better your skill set, I think it's also good when you go ask that question, hey, I need an answer to this, but also can you show me how you got to that answer and how I can get there myself next time. I think that's awesome. And that's cool that you say, that's a great way to describe kind of what your role is, because I think maybe people hear DevOps and don't think about it that way. And I really like that description.
Yeah, because I mean, the service service level of things is very important to me. I'm a very service-oriented person. I think that it's very important. This is why I really tap into the collaboration because it's a must. And also in general, I'm a person that loves to help other people feel good. So even if you will come to me and say, hey, I'm sorry for asking that, I will tell you, you don't need to apologize. You have nothing to apologize for. So I always try to help people feel good because, hey, you're here and you're asking me that question because of the same reason. We are both here to try and help the company succeed. So you don't need to apologize. You don't need to feel bad on anything because you're here with good intentions. So I always try with any interaction that I have with any human being, I'm trying to to make them feel better, because if you come with the right intention, then you have nothing to apologize for, and you don't waste my time. Just the other way around, and everything that I do comes from this, from this concept. So when I think about trainings, when I think about anything, I'm trying to think, how can I help the other side? And this is what DevOps is about. It's about helping. And yeah, most of the other DevOps people that I know help with automations. For me, it's not only the automations part of things, it's also about the trainings and answering questions and be available in Slack and really be there for your clients, your internal clients, because this is why we're here, in my opinion.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And that kind of brought me to a different question I was thinking about. So if there's people listening that are thinking about getting into DevOps, or maybe currently in DevOps and thinking about making a change, do you have any sort of tips and advice for someone to understand whether that's the right journey for them, the right path, the right role to get into, or on the other side, any signs that maybe DevOps isn't a fit and that maybe they should go into a different similar role? Any sort of tips that come up for you there?
Yeah, so first of all, I think that you don't have to be highly technical in order to start being a DevOps, because, for example, I'm a mentor in a course in Israel to teach people how to be DevOps and to teach the ropes. And then I had some mentees that didn't came with any technical background. One was a project manager, one was product manager. So they didn't have any technical background whatsoever, but they had the drive. So I think that the first thing is that you really have to have the drive, because DevOps is all about research. If I need to do something, I need to Google it, I need to talk with people, I need to understand what's going on and how do I deepen my knowledge into something. So let's say, if you're a person that likes to be, I don't know if it's a phrase in English, that I will, feed you by a spoon. Is it a phrase in English?
Which is it again?
Feed you by a spoon.
I don't think I know it.
Okay, so in Hebrew, it's a phrase that's saying that if you want to eat, then I would feed you, and then this is how you will eat, instead of just taking the spoon yourself and eat it, like the the fish and the.
Okay.
It sounds similar. So DevOps people couldn't be people that get fed. They need to feed themselves. They need to go and search for the answers and Google and really be proactive. Because for another example is that there are all sorts of operating systems. One of those are CentOS. If I wouldn't be proactive in my job, then I wouldn't know that CentOS reached the end of life at the end of 2021. And just for the sake of the audience, end of life means that there are no more security patches that getting released. So it means that any servers that have the CentOS operating system installed is open to vulnerabilities, and then breaches and stuff like that, and then application is not that secured. So it's very important. And if I wouldn't read about it, then I wouldn't know this will happen, and then I will do my job not the best way possible, because I wouldn't know about stuff that could happen. So DevOps, it doesn't have to be highly technical at the start. You can gain this ability through practice and through learning, but you really have to be someone that is a self-learner and really motivated and want to, very curious. Yeah, I think that DevOps people are very curious. They want to learn, and they want to understand what's going on and why is this happening or behaving like this. So if you have these traits, then for sure you can start, in this path. And how, like a few tips of how, just take a project, like I want to create an environment. So do it with Terraform, do it with Ansible. So create like a project of an entire flow of application. How do I deploy the application? How do I install it? How do I make it arrive to the servers or clusters? this entire project will consist of a lot of, stuff along the way, a lot of components and a lot of key concepts in the DevOps realm. So if you'll do and start with a project, then it will eventually progress you to something that works. And then you can take this project and discuss it in job interviews and say, hey, no, I don't have experience as a DevOps, but I have this project which I created from scratch on my own, on my spare time, which means I'm motivated, and I can freely speak about it and discuss it. So I think this is the whole Torah, as they say, about how to get into DevOps.
Okay, that's really helpful. And I like that you open with, you don't have to be extremely technical. I'm sure maybe that differs depending on how big the team is and what company you're at. But I think that's probably good to hear because yeah, a lot of it, as you said, is more high level, and being able to understand that strategy and being able to allocate resources and do the training so that other maybe more technical folks can complete the jobs they need to do. So I think that's helpful because maybe people hear that the word dev is in it and think anything related to dev and developers that you have to be extremely technical for. So I think that's really helpful.
I think that that's the thing. DevOps is a job that every company interprets differently.
Right.
So on one company, the DevOps should be highly technical and write code all day long.
Right.
And another company is more, it's not, because code is more, Python and Go and stuff like that. And Terraform is not really, not pure code. It's infrastructure as code, but it's more friendlier for the user. So on other companies, you will just need to write, Terraform code, and that's that, which is more declarative. So it really depends on the company, but I'm sure that if you started as not so technical and you still able to work with Terraform and do stuff with it, then you can integrate in a company that doesn't require too much of a technical aspect to your job and focus on other aspects. So that's the thing. DevOps is really wide and it gets interpreted differently between companies. So I can say that you can find your way, whether you're highly technical or not.
Right. And yeah, that's a good reminder, if people are interviewing for this type of role, to ask those types of questions of, what systems do I need to know? How much coding does this involve? Really, what is the day-to-day looking like, so that people can understand if they're not a fit for DevOps at that one company, they probably are a great fit at the next one. So yeah, that's why you have to ask those questions. And
for sure.
Building on top of that, what would you say, are there any specific tools or technologies or anything that are really helpful for people in a DevOps role similar to yours to be successful? Like anything that you say are must-haves, must-knows, and then other things that are like nice to know. Anything that's really helped you through your path?
Yeah, so I think DevOps, since we're dealing with infrastructure, so we have several pillars that we need to deal with. So the infrastructure itself, creating the infrastructure, is usually done with Terraform. There is more tools like Pulumi, but it's not widely used, at least not in Israel. So Terraform, I think, is the most widely used. The other pillar is configuration management, which means that after you deployed some stuff, you need to configure it. You need to install software, you need to do some tweaks of the configuration. Then this pillar has specific tools for it as well. Ansible, Chef, Puppet. So I think Ansible is widely used. There are some companies that still use Chef. So that's that. Another pillar is the CI. So CI means continuous integration, which means that now the developer pushed code to the repo, how does the code reaches the dev environment and later on the production environment. So in that pillar, we have Jenkins, which is widely used, and also GitLab and Circle CI and Travis CI. So there are several tools, but I think Jenkins is the most used one because it's open source. I can also speak about open source a lot because I'm an advocate for it and I really believe in it. And another pillar is monitoring. So I created the infrastructure. Now, since I'm the gatekeeper of the infrastructure and I want to make sure that everything works as expected, then I need to monitor the environment that I created. So the other pillar is the monitoring, which there are several tools as well. I think the most widely used are Prometheus and Grafana. Prometheus is to scrape the data from the servers and clusters, and Grafana is to visualize the data itself. And there are other tools like Big Panda, New Relic, Datadog, so other tools that are used for that use case as well. So, and I don't think that I missed anything. So these are the four main pillars that you need to take care of when you think about your environment and how you need to maintain it.
Okay, great. That's super helpful. I've definitely heard of all of these pillars, and it's good to get kind of an overview on how those work together and in conjunction, and also why it's important to know them, especially if you're going into a DevOps role and outside of it as well, because these are so widely used.
Yeah, I just remembered something. Another aspect of DevOps is the area or the realm is getting progress all the time. Now we have Terraform, tomorrow we will have something else.
Right.
So don't stick to something, to one thing and say, okay, cool, I'm doing that and alone. Be open to anything. For example, on my current job, I have Chef. I didn't use Chef, and I could say, oh no, Chef, no, I'm used to Ansible. Let's insert Ansible and that's it. No, if the company has Chef, you need to be aware that you need to deal with something else and learn how to use this new tool. And also, if tools are getting introduced daily, so be open to introducing new tools to your environment, because other tools can help you achieve what you want to do, and don't just stick to what you know. Be open to other things that could help you achieve things, because each tool has a different use case, and maybe this tool was good for use case X, but this tool is better for another use case, which is what the company needs. So just keep an open mind and be open to whatever tools that come your way, because again, today is Terraform, tomorrow something else. So we should always keep up to date and be open to new technologies to learn.
Right. Yeah. So don't get too attached. While it's important to understand some of these main technologies, I think it's, as you said, it's also really important to not get stuck in your old ways and to be willing to hear opinions from other people if they're bringing something to the table of, hey, this might help us be more efficient because of XYZ. Be open-minded and don't get, I think that's how some companies get stuck with these kind of old legacy systems, because they're too afraid to move away, and they're afraid of the implementation and migration that's in it. But in the long run, there's probably some benefits that make it worth it for sure.
And then the people that maintain these old systems are leaving the company, and then
right. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So what I know you touched a little bit on, what DevOps culture looks like. Maybe if you want to highlight a couple more or review a couple reasons that you like DevOps culture, but also I'm interested, do you see any overarching issues or areas for improvement within DevOps, since it is still a sort of new term and a semi-new department within companies? Do you have any recommendations or areas you see for improvement?
So, collaboration for me is everything, but it's for me. And I do still encounter people that don't understand that DevOps is based on collaboration and not really cooperative with either other team members or their clients. So, change is hard. Change is hard for people, but if you understand why you're here, you need to tap into the values that drives you and not do what you're asked to do. Because, for example, on my previous job, when I left the company, they really came to me and were really worried that now that I'm leaving, who will take care of them? And they were dead serious. And I'm like, what, you have like, the team is like 15 people. And they said, no, but you're the only one that is, helpful.
Well, that's a
So
compliment.
yeah, so I of course forwarded the feedback back, but that's the thing, you really need to understand that this is important, and we are all people, and we need help, and I will need help sometimes, and a lot of the times. So collaboration is very important. I think another value is integrity. So if you don't think that what's going on is good, either for the company or processes wise, then speak up, because sometimes people are just, no, okay. And I'm like, no, if it's not good, if you don't think it's good, then speak up. Maybe we can improve things. This is what, DevOps is about, to improve things. And not only improve systems, but improve processes as well. For example, I have a project at work about X, but it led me to check another thing about tagging resources in the cloud. And then I came to I could just accept it, right? And say, because okay, the tagging is inconsistency, and sometimes it gets tagged, sometimes not. Okay, but no, I want to improve, right? So I came to my team leader and said, hey, please, let's try and create some guidelines for tagging resources, so we will have consistency, and because tagging is good for a lot of things. It's good for FinOps teams, which is the financial teams that help mitigate cost management. It's also good for me, because if I encounter some resource in the cloud, then I can check the tag of team and see who's responsible for the resource. So if it's not there, then it will be hard, and it will waste my time to chase people and understand who's responsible for resource X, right? So I could just leave it be and say, okay, the tagging is not consistent, so okay. Or I could speak up and say, I don't think that we should keep it that way. I think we should create guidelines and have the whole department start tagging, and have alignment in this area. And this way, I'm improving things, I'm improving processes, I'm improving, how we work in our day-to-day. So I think integrity is also important in my job. And I think most of the jobs out there, not only in DevOps, but it really is important to speak up.
Yeah, I really like that reminder. I think something I've heard can be an issue, and seen it at companies I've been at firsthand, is that people are afraid to speak up because maybe they think they're challenging their superior, or causing issues, or making more of a hassle than needed. But I think managers really respect and appreciate their team coming to them and showing them a different view, and questioning things, and sometimes playing devil's advocate, for lack of a better term, because as we were talking about before, you don't want people getting stuck in their ways. I think it's important to hear a diverse set of views. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to challenge things. And if it ends up being that you continue to do what you're doing, then that's great. And if it ends up being that you find a more efficient process, even better. So I don't think, and that same goes for managers. If you have a manager that's upset that you're challenging things or bringing new ideas to the table, then it's probably not a great team for you to be on.
For sure. We have like a saying in Hebrew that teranen, which means refresh. So if something is bad or toxic in your environment, immediately refresh, and send your resumes to other places.
Right.
And I think that, if you don't need to be afraid to challenge, because it's always a matter of how you do it. If you're coming with, big muscles and say, no, I want this one. And of course, it's not good. But if you say, hey, okay, I saw this, I think we can do it better. We can X, Y, Z, and then see where it goes. If you get an okay, oh, I'll think about it, then great. If not, then at least you know that you did your best. So This is all we could hope for, to do our best.
Yeah, I know exactly. I think that's one of my favorite things about my team that I'm on, is they really value transparency. And I think every year they're even more looking at what our core values are, and how can we follow this even more and be more true to this. And I think with transparency, it kind of goes hand in hand with that, where you are able to share your thoughts, share your feelings. If you disagree, that's completely welcome. And we can have a conversation and we can brainstorm about that. And we'll tell you why we do the things we do. And nothing has to be like hidden of this is just the way it is and you have to accept it. Like, I think it's important to have those conversations. No, pretty much probably no matter what role or team you're on. I think that those aspects are applicable to really any situation. So I like those points that you bring up. So this has been really interesting. I've really enjoyed hearing kind of your point of view about DevOps and things that are helpful and why you like being in the role so much. And would love to hear a little bit about just kind of looking ahead. Like, is there anything you're excited about right now, or anything you're focused on learning or achieving in the next few months, whether it's specific to your company and your team, or even on a broader scale or a personal side?
Yeah, so I think lately as I said, DevOps is like dev enablement. I'm enabling developers to do their job. Lately, I see a trend of DevOps enablement, which means that there are tools that are introduced and released to the market about enabling DevOps to do their job better. So there are tools that help me when I work on Kubernetes YAML files, then help me create the files easily and avoid schema issues or syntax issues and stuff like that. So there are tools that help me do my job better. So I think this is very exciting, and it will really help me do my job on the day-to-day level more efficient and more easier. So I'm really looking forward to see how it plays out, and also incorporate these tools in my day-to-day, because then I would say, okay, cool. Now that I have more free time, what can I do with it, right? So I think that this is very, and I can give example if I want. There's like a Valid IAC, which is an open source tool for validating Terraform code. There's also Valid Cube for the same aspect. There's also a tool for Monocle for the Kubernetes YAML files, schema and validations, and also the Tree, which is an Israeli company that helps you incorporate policies in Kubernetes to help manage Kubernetes better in the aspects of security. So I think it's very important that we have companies that understand that we need enablement as well, and they actually release products that help us. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's great. Yeah, it's sounds like very optimistic, and it's cool that there's always new technologies coming out to help your team as well. That will help enable you, enable the rest of your team. So as you said, there's so many different technologies to be on the lookout for, and other ways to just continue to automate and become more efficient. And I think maybe some people are afraid of automation because they think it's going to eventually make their jobs obsolete and not necessary, but I don't think that's usually the case. It's just going to streamline and make your job easier and give you time to focus on other things. So
yeah,
the job, stay positive.
The job never ends. I'm not afraid that automation will replace me, because the job really, it never ends. We have a backlog from here to Mississippi, so I'm not concerned at all.
Right, exactly. And sorry, I apologize. My dog was drinking water. If anyone's listening, they know my dog always interrupts at least one point in the podcast. So
I love dogs.
Sorry about that.
I love dogs. He's more than welcome to interrupt again, because dogs are the best.
I know, exactly. Awesome. Well, this has been so great speaking with you, Hila. I really appreciate it. It's great to connect with you. For anyone listening, I'll be sure to put some different links where you can find her in the show notes if you want to connect for any reason, and really appreciate your time. It's so great to talk to you, and hope you enjoy you said it's a holiday today, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the holiday.
I am, and I enjoyed the talk because I just now look at So it's always fun to speak about DevOps, and it's always fun to speak about. It's fun to speak with intelligent people. So, and the combination between the two is always fun. So thanks for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Select Star, your resource for innovative technology and developer topics. You can find our episodes in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Google, RSS, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share. You can learn more about HarperDB at harperdb.io.